Hard Hat Uncovered.
Welcome to Hard Hat Uncovered, where our mission is to get safety professionals and teams to realize that making a change impacts me, making a difference impacts others, and making history impacts the world. I'm here with your host, Junior Gutierrez.
Hard Hat Uncovered. Welcome back,
brother.
Welcome back to Hard Hat Uncovered. This is podcast number 2. If you listen to the intro, if you didn't, you need to go back so you can understand who we are and when we say things like Lieutenant Oates, why it makes sense.
Absolutely.
One comes before two, so start with the first one.
Well, we got the team back here, and today we're going to be talking about just good communication in the workplace, and I would just say everywhere else too, right? That pertains to safety.
Yeah, everybody
Absolutely.
communicates on a daily basis. It ain't just in safety.
Right.
So,
How many times have you heard your old lady or somebody say, we need to communicate? Because
Now, I don't know if old lady's politically correct.
your woman. Well, you know what? Your
significant
partner.
other.
And if your wife's listening today, please forgive him. So today, we're just talking again about good communication and some of the ways that we could get our message out to the individuals out in the field or in the workplace, in your office, or wherever you're sitting listening to us. Hopefully you're not holding a meeting while you're driving down the freeway listening to this, right? So let's talk about just some of the ways that we've seen how good communication can mitigate conflicts, or how bad communications has started conflicts on the job. I know we've all been in the industry long enough that we've seen a good conversation go south really fast, right?
Right. It's all about knowing how to talk to people. You can't talk to everybody the same way. We all know that. Everybody. Some people, they handle getting yelled at well, while others, they just automatically shut down and won't listen to anything else you say because you started yelling. So you got to find the right communication with each individual. So everybody's going to be different. I think, Damon's one of the best at it. He can relate to the guys in the field really well. He's been there. He knows how to talk to these guys. And knowing the right things to say, knowing how to talk to these guys is the best way to go about this.
Right, because you don't want to have any misunderstandings when you are communicating with them. You got to know the people that you're talking to, knowing the crowd, put it like this, and knowing the individuals, because I might be able to talk to Dylan differently than I talk to Junior. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to have a plan and effect before you even start the conversation. Right. I got to handle you with the kid gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also comes down to it, and Damon, you could relate to this, is that I've lived in several different states in the United States, and what one thing means in one area might not mean the same thing, in another.
Right. Different cultures, different social norms.
Absolutely.
Being from Texas, we use words like yonder, and I'm not stereotyping it. I've literally been in stores and have heard the term yonder and just things like that. And
I'm from Pittsburgh, where we say yins, but you say y'all.
We say y'all.
Communications at all levels.
Yep, and in Michigan they say "What up, though?"
What up, though?
Right, and not on a Homer Simpson level, but it's just different communication.
Yeah, and that also relates onto the job site, right? So in Texas we'd say a lot of, "Hey, give me that there," which could be any tool out there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's understanding, like you said, just who we're talking to, and sometimes it doesn't even hurt just to ask.
Right.
What does that mean?
What are you trying to say right now?
Because guess what? In that's where it comes to, you got to understand what you're hearing. If somebody tells you something and you don't understand it, you might do the wrong thing. You might think it, they're telling you to do something that, you might get confused as far as, what you're being told to do.
Yeah, and a perfect example is that I had seen when I was a pipe fitter down in Texas, is that we used different hand signals for the crane. Right. So, and it wasn't, I don't want to say it was made up, because I could go on multiple job sites and use those same hand signals.
Yep.
But when we moved to the north, to South Dakota, the operators were up there were 100%. You got to stick by the book of
chart.
what the hand signals are. So to me, that threw me off, because coming from the South, we used the made up ones that was very common. But that's just a different way of communicating, right? So
When I was in the cell tower industry, you're 300, 400, 500 feet in the air. You can't see hand signals. Sometimes your radio is in a spot where you can't get to it. So they communicate by whoops. One whoop is up, two whoops is down, one long whoop is stop. You're just yelling up and down the tower. So there's all different types of communication in all different industries. So knowing the right one for what you're doing is important.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially when you're trying to relate that onto the field, right? So let's just say, how many times you ever gone out into the field and just try to just tell someone, hey, look, I think you should do it this way, and then automatically they get on the defense, right?
Right. 'Cause, people are emotional, so you gotta respect their emotional needs.
Right.
You talk to different people different ways.
Absolutely. And, especially a lot of tradesmen, they hate to feel disrespected by somebody that's trying to help them. You know what I mean? And that goes with the communication. It's the way you approach them and talk to them. Nobody wants to feel like they've been stepped on or disregarded or feeling disrespected.
Yeah, and sometimes it even goes across the disciplines when it comes to craft, right? So you might have a scaffold builder that would go to a carpenter and say, hey, can you cut me a piece of this plywood because I need to cover a hole in my scaffold? And then sometimes I would see that that craft would feel, oh, this guy is just trying to take advantage of me.
Right.
He really doesn't need it because
Yeah.
he doesn't feel like doing it, or whatever the scenario is, right? And so it could truly be that scaffold builder really does need this guy's help.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example of communication between different trades on a job site. So recently I was on a job site where we have drywallers, concrete guys, iron workers, and they're all working right on top of each other. If these guys don't communicate the different hazards, they can put each other in really serious situations. So we had a near miss where some tools were knocked off the edge, and there was no controlled access zone set up. There was no safety netting set up. So being able to communicate with each other, so the drywall foreman should have communicated with the ironworker foreman, who should have communicated with the mason foreman. They explained, hey, I need to work right here today. I'm going to be working above you. Can you move to another location? So being able to communicate and have that relationship within a job site really is a key part of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And also what we don't want is for someone out there to feel like they're being disregarded as well. Perfect example is that if someone's coming up to bring up an issue, it's real easy for the foreman to be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, or brush them off.
Yeah, or brush them off, exactly, right? I mean, it's because then how easy is it going to be for that individual to bring up another safety concern?
Right. They're not going to want to.
They're
anymore.
not going to. I've seen that situation happen plenty of times when you try to tell a leader certain things that you might foresee, and then they disregard you, maybe because they're in charge, maybe because they're the foreman of the GF. They don't want to really hear it, and then an accident or incident happens. And now everybody's like, well, you should have listened to him, instead of not paying attention to him.
So now imagine the flip side, right? So let's just say in that same scenario, if that employee was to go to his supervisor and say, hey, I need to stop doing this because we're creating a hazard, we're creating a hole that's going to, now imagine the engagement now that employee is going to start bringing. Now he's going to feel more comfortable. Hey, next time I can bring it up because the last time they listened to me.
Always listens and takes into consideration what someone's saying, because someone's not going to come to you unless they legitimately feel concerned or have a legitimate reason to come talk to you about
Absolutely.
something.
That comes with confidence too. You got confidence that you're going to address a safety concern instead of brushing them off, pushing them to the side.
And as Junior said, it gets employees more engaged, gets them more engaged in safety. You start to get the tools to better understand what your employees want, their goals, their needs, how they can work safer.
Right. So let's just say if I'm some type of district manager or the vice president of the company, but now I go out into the field, and instead of just being upset that my guy isn't working, and the appearance is, oh, he's standing around twiddling his thumbs, but in reality he's standing around because he's recognized the hazard and now he wants to fix it. But now as the CEO, the vice president, whatever title of the supervisor you want to put in there, if I get in there and understand by asking, hey, look, what's going on? And not coming in the approach of, hey, why are you standing around?
Right.
But more of, hey, what's going on?
Get an understanding.
Right. And then now, oh, wait a minute. Now I can understand that this employee for the last 6 months has been asking for the right PPE to get the job done. And now I can, with my authority and with my power, I can come in
Make it happen.
and make it happen. Now, what does that do for the rest of the company? What does that do for the rest of the employees once they see that type of effort and that type of engagement?
Yeah, that's a type of company you want to work for. Someone where your frontline supervisors, your CEO is going to really, take into consideration what you're saying and do something about it.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I've seen out there as well, I mean, let's just say Damon's a perfect example, right? So Damon was a craft guy that was out in the field. He was out laying pipe in the days of Julius Caesar back in Rome and stuff like that, right? and he was doing he was doing a great job at that, right? But one of the things is that someone down the line was able to communicate with Damon, and Damon, communicated with them as well. And then we learned that Damon had another talent, which was, to become a safety guy. That would have never happened if that communication wasn't there. Damon would still be,
right.
welding or working in pipe.
Someone took the time to communicate with them and realize that other talent. You start talking to your employees, not only about work but outside of work, and you find out what motivates them, why they come to work, why they work safe. And as safety professionals, it's much easier to get our point across, get our message out there, if the employees are going to buy into it, and we know what motivates them.
Yeah, and we were able to figure out, where's Damon's place in safety, right? So when it comes to safety, I've always mentioned, I've always said there is no silver bullet answer when it comes to safety, right? It takes a village of people to create a safety culture, and if you think about it, it's like a band. Everybody can't play the drums.
Right, but everybody plays an integral
part.
Right.
Everybody plays their part, right? I mean, not all of us can sit here in a chair and look handsome like Dylan Hipple over here, you know what I mean? The rest of us got to work out in the field, but we all play our role. But we won't ever understand those things if we're not communicating, if we're not talking, with the people out in the field. Who knows that the guy that's out there standing around because he recognized the hazard and stopped working, that might be the next safety manager in your organization.
Right.
He might be the guy that comes in and changes your safety culture just by his one action. But instead of disregarding him, instead of not understanding, instead of not asking him the questions or asking them what's going on in their task, we'll never know.
Right.
And that's one thing about me, like me getting into safety. It's a lot of talents that Dylan and Junior have that I'll never come close to. So, when I first got into safety, Junior had to explain to me, Dylan had to explain to me, hey, you're good at this. You're good at being in the field. I knew that because I could relate to the people in the craft. I wanted to be on the same level as them with the technical skills they have on the computer and sending emails and sitting in meetings and stuff like that. So, like Junior was saying, it's a band. We're like a band, so everybody has their own key roles that they play. And I'm beginning to realize it more now as it's been explained to me, and I've been seeing how things are happening in the field. Yep.
And that creates just that overall better relationship, right? I mean, and just to think all of this just because taking the time of 2 or 3 minutes just to properly communicate with somebody can make a world of difference, right? So now you can change your whole safety culture from nobody wanting to say anything to where now they feel like they can carry this message all the way up to the top because somebody's listening.
Just because you have that relationship, that camaraderie with your supervisor, with your coworkers, with your CEO, you develop that relationship and they're taking action on stuff. Now you feel comfortable.
And imagine what that does. So, most of our jobs is typically you're going to have a client, right? Whether if it's a public entity, a private entity, commercial, residential, somebody's going to be a client down the road, right? And imagine what that does when your client or when your partner comes up and asks one of your employees, hey, how's it going? Oh man, it's good, we're getting this done. And all of a sudden it's a positive conversation that they're having with the direct client. And trust me, it's going to happen. Sometimes some of these clients I've noticed will go out into the field and find the guy that's kind of at the bottom of the totem pole and strike up a conversation with them, and then just so they can get a pulse, they can get an understanding of what type of contractor do they have on their job site.
What type of culture does that company have?
I mean, think about it, Damien. How many times have you ever seen people complain about a contractor to the client?
Absolutely, a lot.
A lot, right? And then so now what what does that do to your next contract whenever it comes time to renew
Makes
it?
it a little harder to
Makes
get.
it harder to get. Makes them look the other way. Yeah.
With that being said, sometimes that also relates to helping us understand what a client, what their needs are, right? So let's just say, for example, now I have an open relationship of communication with the guy. Again, let's just say the individual that is out there, let's say shoveling asphalt, right? And now all of a sudden he's had a conversation with the client, and now that employee also feels comfortable to come up to me and say, hey, look, hey, the client was making small talk with me and they just mentioned we're blocking their parking.
Right, that
Something
small
simple.
thing, it can make a huge difference.
Now, maybe the client doesn't feel like it's such a big deal that they need to come in and hold a huge executive meeting or a change work order or anything like that. But now we got a little bit of information from one of our field guys, because we have open communication with them about how to improve the needs of our clients. Because I guarantee at 6:30 in the morning when that client's trying to park in their parking spot and they don't have to, wiggle their car in, it makes
a lot more pleased.
they're going to be a lot more excited about their day, right? We can easily see how just something simple as just how we're communicating, how we're talking with the individuals out in the field can take us from making things better out in the field to all the way up to the top, to where now it can improve our chances of renewing our contract, having a happier client, right? Or just the overall mission, the overall goal that we had is just that we're able to produce our job in a high quality manner without getting somebody hurt, without causing damage, without causing property damage, equipment damage, and so forth. And then that's just going to make our talent out there to become more productive and more beneficial out there. As we're talking with everyone, that's going to help us to better understand, right, what kind of team do we have out there?
Right, what are our needs? Where do we need to improve? What training are we lacking? What areas do we need to focus on? Having that good communication really helps you figure out all these things. Figure out where your talent is, where your skills are, and then on the opposite side, what you're lacking, where you need to focus.
Yeah, think about a coach on a football team, right? A good football team, not like the Steelers or anyone like that. Like a good football team, right? So, but no, think about it, right? And we might get some hate mail for this, right? But think about your Bill Belichick's, right? Think about those George Seiferts, that was a coach for the 49ers, in case you wouldn't know who George Seifert was. But think about what those coaches did. They were able to find their team talent, all right? And that didn't come just by them looking on a piece of paper, oh, this guy was drafted because he can run a 40 in so many seconds, right? It takes a little bit more than a guy running fast to be able to be a good running back or a good wide receiver, right? And so as a good football coach, what they do is they have to communicate. They got to talk with the players. They got to figure out what's the talent. How can I use this person over here to benefit the overall team, right?
Right. Everybody's talented in some way or another.
Everybody
It's
has a
up to
talent.
us to figure out what that talent is.
What the talent is and where to place them in order to utilize that talent.
One thing that we have seen a lot, especially here with our team that we have here at Hard Hat Uncovered, is that we have found just through talking how innovative just the vision and just great ideas that can come out of just from talking.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we just sat in a room and just been talking, just
All these ideas are floating.
all of a sudden we're like, oh wait, we need to capture this, we need to write this down, and we done threw away $20 million ideas just because we didn't capture more. But I mean, just because we have established just such a great communication amongst our team that these ideas and how innovative our team members are just free flowing out because just something so simple as just talking.
Right.
So what's the bottom line, guys? The bottom line is that if we have great communication, Damon, what's going to be some of the results? Great communication. Go.
Better production, better attitudes, better cohesion. Can be things like that with great communication, a better understanding of what's going on the job, but better understanding of how to get it done without people butting heads and stuff. Yeah, stuff like that.
And then on the flip side, bad communication. Dylan, go.
We're not communicating with each other. We're not recognizing all the hazards. We're not recognizing where we're lacking, where our skills are lacking. We're putting people in situations they're not comfortable in. So, there's a lot of negative that comes from bad communication.
Yeah. And again, all these topics and things that we hit on, right? And it's major problems that can be avoided from something that's so simple as just taking the time to listen to what's going on out in the field, right? It's going to help you as a person to gain a better understanding of what's going on in your job. What's going to make your team develop better? What's going to make your team more beneficial? What's going to make your organization more beneficial? I can tell you, you can go out there and buy the best PPE on the market. You can buy the best equipment on the market. You can buy whatever, the best software on the market. But if you don't know how to get your team integrated enough to utilize those things, all it's going to do is just make you go bankrupt.
Yeah, and there's no cookie cutter form to create this perfect setup. And that's why you got to learn about your team, learn about everyone's personalities, their skills, their interests, and know how to communicate with each one of them and figure out how to bring out the best in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, guys, that's another one in the books, another great topic that we discussed. So, like we've said before, this is Hard Hat Uncovered, and you can follow us on any media platform. Find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can follow our hashtags, which is hashtag Change One Thing. Just tune in, subscribe, listen to us next time. This is Junior Gutierrez with Lieutenant Oates and Dylan Hipples signing off. And as a reminder, whenever you make a change, it's going to impact me. Making a difference impacts others, and making history impacts the world.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Hard Hat Uncovered. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube at Hard Hat Uncovered.
Hard Hat Uncovered.